members who are sitting with me in this room in the conference hall in Antalya, they're really interested in the question where we're all headed, right? So what is the future of technologies? Which ecosystem to join? Is it going to be a single unique ecosystem, or are we going to opt for like more isolated blocks? So this is kind of a set of questions that I suggest we discuss today. And I'm now passing the floor to Matt, who gave his green light on moderating this discussion. Matt, thank you so much for that. The floor is yours.
Yeah, so I guess before we hop right in, I'll give a little bit of structure of how I aim to guide the panel. So I'm going to go one by one. Each of our panelists submitted a variety of questions, and I'm just going to do one of each and just continually rotate through the question. And so I don't know if we're going to get to all of them or not, but hopefully we can get to a majority of them. So I'll give a short introduction about myself. My name is Matt. I work in business development at Ava Labs. I've been here for around 2 years now. I primarily focus on BD or DeFi and institutional capital markets, but honestly, at this point in time, I'm more of a generalist in nature. And so I lead a lot of our external data partnerships, as well as help quite a bit with infra, tooling, and security projects as well. Before joining Ava Labs, I worked in traditional finance for about 2 years, a year and a half directly at undergrad, and I have a little bit of a computer science background as well. A decent bit of solidity, but I'll now introduce our panelists one by one. So we have Lomesh Datta. He's a VP of growth at DFINITY. He's ex-VP of growth at Abra, ex-VP of business and growth at Paytm, and which is the largest and fastest growing fintech startup in India. And it's invested in by Warren Buffett and SoftBank. He also founded and sold 2 startups, Near.in and Workle. He's previously a TEDx speaker as well. Next panelist is Ognyan Chikov. He's a senior blockchain developer at Limechain and head of mentors at Lime Academy. He's also part of the development team and team leader for different blockchain projects such as bridges, DEXs, liquidity mining as a service, blockchain, Ethereum development, and deployment frameworks. Next panelist is Doruk Ismen. He's a country leader of Turkiye at dYdX Foundation, as well as served as the marketing director for Vasiliy, a stablecoin company that introduced a token pegged to the Turkish lira. It's funny, we actually work with the Vasiliy team quite a bit just because our founder at Ava Labs, Ismen, is from Turkey. And our final panelist is Vasiliy Rudomanov, and he's a product director at Chainstack. For the last 10 years, he has been building B2B products for data centers, cloud management, storage, and networking. And at Chainstack, he is responsible for the product team to deliver the best-in-class blockchain managed service. I guess I'll give a short definition before we hop right in as to what we'll be discussing on blockchains, more specifically what cross-chain, appchain, and omnichain is. So cross-chain to me is primarily centered around interoperability, such as Layer 0, Synapse, Axelar, Stellar, etc. It enables teams to use multiple blockchains and build on top of that infrastructure. Some teams deem to build directly on the cross-chain messaging layer, their application, and use it as sort of a hub and spoke model, as well as some teams even have like borrowing and lending protocols directly built on Layer 0, such as Prime Protocol, or front end for a generic asset issuance, similar to Stargate, Altitude, Finance, that sort of thing. Prime is interesting because it uses, like I mentioned, a hub and spoke model for their borrowing and lending protocol. And generally, they kind of settle final state to one specific blockchain, sort of that hub or accounting blockchain, but that's really it. Otherwise, they're inherently very cross-chain. And so omnichain to me is what a lot of teams have done the past 2 years, in which they deploy both front end and back end directly to that specific blockchain. So example of this would be SushiSwap or Uniswap deploying on multiple chains, whether that be Polygon, Avalanche, Arbitrum, Optimism, Ethereum, Mainnet, etc. And that dApp is a siloed experience on that specific chain rather than inherently cross-chain in nature. And then in terms of app chains are generally application-specific blockchains, similar to Polkadot parachains, Cosmos app chains and zones, Avalanche subnets, Polygon supernets, and BSC sidechains. Some of those are also not just application specific. They might be more general purpose or blank canvas, but specifically parameterized or solving to be high in TPS, low in time to finality, or like super cheap, for instance. Obviously, there's trade-offs depending on what that team is optimizing for, because the blockchain trilemma has not totally been solved yet, as we know. But so far, people are working towards really solving for it, and app chains are one way of scaling blockchains in general. So I'll hop right into questions now. And the first question is from Ognyan. Why do we need cross-chain, app chain, and omnichain technologies? I'll start off. Ognyan, because this is your own question, do you want to start off with the answer, and then we'll open it up for like the rest of the panel?
Yeah. Thank you, Matt, for the question. So you actually start to answer and give a very nice description of what is cross-chain, app-chain, and omnichain. Actually, what is my opinion and why we need such kind of technologies? You know that Web3 is a term that's used to describe the next generation of the internet, where decentralized applications, or we call them dApps, run on blockchain networks that are open, transparent, and censorship resistant. Those apps can actually offer various services and solutions: DeFi, gaming, or gamify social media, identity, more and more. However, those blockchains are not compatible with each other. They're different, let's say, closed systems, and different blockchains, they have different architectures, consensus mechanisms, programming languages, and of course, security models. And this means that the dApps that are built on one blockchain cannot easily communicate or interact with dApps that are built on another blockchain. And those limitations are the purpose of why we need such kind of technologies, because users and developers are restricted by the boundaries of each chain. And to overcome this challenge, cross-chain, app-chain, and omnichain are here today. And if I want to go a little bit more deep into that, I'm a person who is coming before actually to become a blockchain developer and developer at all. I'm coming from the communication, from the telecommunication sector, where each person, when starts to learn about computer networks, starts with the OSI and the TCP/IP model. And my opinion is that we need such kind of standards into the Web3 in order to allow the different blockchains to communicate. And right now we are maybe in the early 80s of the internet communication, if I want to compare with the blockchain networks, where we just have a closed systems that cannot communicate on a unified protocol. And that's why we need cross-chain, app-chain, omni-chain, or any other protocol, communication protocol. We can call it whatever we want, but the truth is that we need such kind of technologies in order to enable those kind of closed systems to operate. And those three terms that we are discussing today are part of the interoperability. And that's why the interoperability is so important for the today's Web3 world. This is my opinion, and that's why we need those technologies.
Amazing. Thank you for your answer. Any of our other panelists have a follow-up or anything they'd like to add to that answer?
So I think, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Lomesh.
Now, I was saying like it's a pretty good perspective, but I think one of the things I'm curious to hear also your opinion is that right now we have, as you said, like all of these different kind of like blockchains with very different trust assumptions, very different programming models. So what are the challenges that you see? Do you think this cross-chain interoperability or basically this omnichain model would work, or are we just taking it too far?
Yep. Can I answer from my perspective? Yeah. So the last couple of months, I'm researching solutions like Layer 0 and CCIP, and CCIP solution of Chainlink. So in my opinion, especially CCIP, they have something that is really working and really easy to use. It's a messaging protocol. The challenges are to, of course, the challenges are with the wide adoption and making all users and developers using such kind of standardization. And one of the biggest challenges here are because those kind of protocols are putting another layer of complexity upon the complex blockchain technology. So the main challenge here is to resolve this kind of complexity with those another layers that are put on with such kind of solutions. So this is my opinion.
Okay, then I will share like my thoughts, my idea, what I would like to share. And I came to this idea not when I came to Web3, but maybe 20 years ago when I just started digging into different type of technologies, especially networking, the computer system and such. And at that point of time, I find out that any new technology is trying to solve problems that came to our life with the previous technology. And that, you know, infinite cycle. We building new technology, we're trying to solve some problem, we bring this technology to our life, we start using it, then we realize that we didn't think about some aspect of some area of our life that will change with that new technology, and we start inventing new technology to solve new problem. And I truly believe that yeah, right now, like we're talking about omnichains, appchains, and cross chains, and we truly believe that it will help to solve multiple problems with scalability, with transfer of assets, and so on and so forth. However, I truly believe that we will bring so many new problems to our life and to blockchain and to Web3, and we will start inventing new technology to solve new problem. And basically, in case if you open any EIP, Ethereum Improvement Proposal, you will see that this is a list of problems that we're trying to solve with invention of this Ethereum. So it will be infinite cycle.
Thank you. Anyone else want to add anything before we move on to the next question?
I would also add like a slightly contrarian view to the topic here. I mean, I think I do agree that like we would need multiple chains. There will be multiple chains, but at this point in time, I think there are just too many experiments, and of course, a lot of them will fail. So my hypothesis is that 90+% of these, like, I mean, different attempts are going to die. And the reason is that we need to start with the customer pain point. What is the problem we're trying to solve for an end consumer? And then basically try to give them the most optimal kind of solution to the problem. So in my mind, a lot of these things are already adding a lot of complexity to the already complex world of blockchains. Like I said, we keep on, I mean, we have different blockchains with different assumptions. Hello.
You're good. We can hear you.
Yeah. So I was saying, so basically we have different blockchains with different trust assumptions. Then we are talking about like bridges or even like obviously different messaging protocols. These are good, but I think ideally it would be like if we have a more structured, a more standardized way where like a bunch of these blockchains could come together to form and adhere to a specific standard. That would be an ideal approach.
Yeah, I guess it's interesting. I think I've seen this problem exactly in my role. People build blockchain solutions for blockchain users and your stereotypical crypto degens rather than real world users. And we need more and more people developing on the application layer or people that are more normal at obfuscate away and abstract the blockchain elements. Like, to be completely frank, if there's a time where I don't even need to know what blockchain I'm using, and if I'm even using any blockchain at all, that would be like the perfect world in my own viewpoint. I see two hands up. Vasiliy, you want to go? Oh, Ognyan, I see you gonna go first, Ognyan, and then Vasiliy, you want to follow up?
Okay.
Maybe Vasiliy is the first one. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. I just would like to share that I fully agree with Lomesh, his point of view that we really feel lack of standardization. Because in case if we go back in 1980s, 1970s, 1990s, when we got all these standards which we use today for internet, all this IP, TCP, HTTP, DNS, and stuff. We knew right now that before we actually got internet in our life, some smart guys, some smart people invented those technologies and put them on paper and share those paper to their community, scientific community, engineering community and stuff, and it's about wide discussion, some improvements, and then people start delivering those standards in piece of software, in hardware, and we know what we got after that. Yeah, we got a full world of people and devices and equipment and processes which can connect together, which can work together, which are compatible to each other. And we can think about any company from any country, from any geographical region, and anyone can build something that is compatible with the entire internet because there are standards. And this is a good approach. And now in Web3, we really feel lack of standardization. And there is some sign of standardization in some closed ecosystem. Yeah, for instance, with Ethereum Foundation, there is those list of Ethereum improvement proposals. It's like kind of standardization of process, how to discuss about new technology, how to agree on those improvements and how to implement those improvements. But all those improvements inside just one ecosystem, yeah. And in case if we take a look on Bitcoin, there is a Bitcoin improvement proposal. In case if we take a look on Avalanche, there is their list of standardization. And maybe this is the right time to find more common ground behind all those ecosystem and provide a new proposal for standards which will be commonly used by multiple companies and blockchains and IT system and Web3.
Yeah. Oh, Lomesh, you want to go?
Yeah, I think one of the fun things about this world is that although a lot of us may agree, let's say, on okay, this is the standard, this is the right way to do things, but at least what is happening a little bit also in our industry is that we have different projects with like different bags of tokens. So clearly, like even though you may want to align, the fact that like I mean, different people are holding different kinds of tokens. They have a different incentive to make, let's say, their version of the story work. So I hope that like we can think at a higher level than that, and we can converge because at the end of the day, it's still a very nascent industry, and we all need to come together to grow the pie, is at least my opinion.
Got it. All right. This is our last answer before moving on to the next question. Ognyan, you want to give your input as well, and then we'll move on to the next question.
Yeah, so I agree with all the answers up to now. I just want to add that those standardizations and protocols maybe will come with the usage of the community, because if we go back into the history, of course, I'm relying to the internet protocols, all those things that we've already mentioned. If we take a product, for example, the GSM technology and the communication, the end users they don't care actually about what is underneath and what kind of protocols are underneath. So they just care to take a call, can hear the voice over there. So I'm thinking that this, let's say, the whole interoperability will be around a product, innovative product that people can use. I'm not talking about the blockchain devs, but the wide adoption and the people that don't care about the technology underneath. And this product will make the adoption and will make in use those technologies like cross-chain, appchain, and omnichain.
Yeah, thanks for all of our panelists for providing great opinions and feedback. Doruk, this question is specifically for you about why did dYdX choose to become an app chain, and what was the main motivation behind that decision?
Thank you, Matt, for the question. Actually, yeah, we are mentioning about end users, and I think most of us will agree with in the future, people don't need to know what are they using for the infrastructure part, like what are they using the blockchain layer 1, layer 2. It doesn't matter for them. So as dYdX, our main motivation to becoming an app chain and using through Cosmos SDK, it is for the basically compete with centralized exchange. That's number one thing. The second thing is completely decentralization for each layers, because in the end, if you have any centralized compatible layers, centralized layers in the product, you are basically centralized, not decentralized. So that's pretty important thing. And with our current version, our matching engine on order book are on AWS, which is off-chain. So because of these two layers are off-chain, we also want to put all these layers into on-chain, such as in-memory book and on-chain order book and matching engine. So that's the second thing. And the third one is, I think I can say that because right now the dYdX tokens utility is only for governance and for the trading rewards. So for the third reason of becoming an app chain is the validating the chain with your own token, and the dYdX token become layer 1 token on the dYdX chain. So that's make another utility for the dYdX holders, dYdX investors for themselves. And with this approach, with this dYdX token becoming a layer 1 token, we can easily share our, I will say, trading fees with our validators and stakers, basically dYdX token holders. So yeah, like with these three main reasons, dYdX will become an app chain. And I think because of the dYdX decision, there are so many paradigm shift to app chains. I heard so many rumors about few chains also going to be appchain, such as Compound. They announced the Solana. They announced their appchain will use Solana virtual machine, and it's pretty interesting. Maybe we can take other panelists' idea about that too, because I think I never heard of it. Like you can take monolithic chain as app chain, so it's pretty interesting. I'm not sure for others how's that idea sound, but it's pretty interesting, and I think there more will come. There more app chain will come after dYdX dYdX chain launch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's, in my opinion, your reasons in which providing more token utility for dYdX, the actual underlying token, a sovereign environment, the best user experience, that sort of thing. I think that's what a lot of teams want when they decide to develop their own app chain. We've seen that within our ecosystem as well. You framed an interesting point regarding Compound forking the Solana virtual machine and creating an app chain from it. The only other team I know that has done something similar is Eclipse Labs, and they're building an SVM rollup that settles to Ethereum. I don't think, from a tech perspective, forking the Solana VM and running the validators will be hard. I think the hard part is going to be getting all of the infra for that stack, and we're kind of rounding up the infra providers and having them build on that SVM Compound fork, just because from what I've seen, a lot of teams that are infra providers, cross-chain interoperability protocols, etc., all have trouble integrating on Solana, and it takes them quite a bit of dev efforts. And so it'll be definitely a heavy BD efforts, and I'm sure they'll have to provide quite a bit of fees for integrations to those teams. But yeah, I guess I'll open it up to the rest of our panelists now to give their feedback if they want to regarding Doruk's answer, as well as maybe their opinions on dYdX becoming their own Cosmos app chain.
So it's interesting. So like, would you envision that in the future, every app, big or small, would be going that route? Or should they be doing that?
Totally no. I think that's mainly like I can say which token, which protocol should go on the app chain, but with the current environment of dYdX, with the current brand point of dYdX, that totally makes sense. Because in the end, for the app chain, you need to secure your chain with your own validators in some cases. And some cases, for your app chain, you need to get secured by another chain, such as like Avalanche for subnets. For you can use also Ethereum, or the Celestia also comes. So yeah, like it depends on the situation, but I can say that for dYdX, with the quickest competition with centralized exchange, Cosmos SDK is a great weapon for us to use to compete with centralized exchange as soon as possible. And with the Cosmos chain, with the dYdX chain, we also give another utility for our token too. So yeah, but I can say if you need to feel the room, yeah, and after that you can decide about becoming an app chain. I can say for all DeFi protocols.
Yeah, I think it's important to touch upon just how much of a lift building an app chain is in general, because a lot of teams, they can build on the application layer of another permissionless blockchain, but actually running the underlying blockchain infrastructure validators, being a distributed state systems engineer in general is quite challenging. And so that's the thing. If you have, I don't know, 10 validators, you have to ensure majority uptime. If the network would get forked on accident, proper security measures, there's a lot you have to think about. And so I think not every dApp needs to be their own app chain, but I think generally teams graduate up becoming their own app chain after they've reached critical mass or a place where they feel like they no longer benefit from just being on another team's permissionless blockchain.
Yeah, there is that level, and then also there is an ongoing like tooling maintenance. Like I mean, as you scale, you'll obviously require a lot more tooling, which again you are basically like choosing to build from the get-go for everything that you do. So yeah, I mean, I agree. Probably a good decision for someone your size at dYdX, but I would say for 99+% of teams, think of like it as like you're operating at the application layer. You don't need to like, so imagine you're just like an app on the app store kind of a thing, right? You don't need to build the entire stack for 99% of the time.
Yeah, I can just give one example of something that's happened in the past when people start using some new infrastructure. You know, previously there was just a road for cars or for some horses, and eventually they came trains to our life, and people invented railroad, which kind of new type of road, and I see some similarity with the appchain. And of course, for such heavy, massive type of transportation, we start using parallel type of roads, and we start investing in them. We start spending a lot of money to support such type of infrastructure, because we have seen the benefits of using parallel infrastructure. And I see the similarity here with appchain. So in case if there is some huge, heavy, massive demand for separate computing workspace and storage space, then we will build this parallel rack or road for new application or use case and stuff. But otherwise, like all cars using the common roads, and that's all.
Nice. I guess I have a follow-up for you, Vasiliy. Just being at Chainstack, kind of managing blockchain solutions for external teams and helping them build those out, as well as giving your like expert opinion to those teams of what they should build. What are some successful use cases of existing problems that were solved using each of these technologies that we kind of touched upon today, as well as have you personally recommended any teams build their own app chain, whether it's on Avalanche, Cosmos, Polkadot, etc.?
So yeah, before I share some few examples, just would like to remind to those who don't know. Yeah, we at Chainstack, we running more than 30 different blockchain networks, public blockchains, and providing access to them. And we also do support of appchains from our infrastructure to those customers who are really looking for some specific solution for their decentralized application. And we started this journey with Avalanche subnet technology, because probably it was the first thing which called themselves appchain. Yeah, I believe Polkadot and Cosmos exist much before that. However, they have some different positioning and approach, and Avalanche subnet was the first who start promoting this appchain for building a chain for your own application, not just some custom blockchain. And after Avalanche subnet, there was also Polygon Supernet, Polygon Edge technology, BNB sidechain, StarkNet, StarkX technology, and now we see there is plenty of new other appchain technologies as well. And we talk a lot with different companies who were interested in such technology, and we try to understand better why they're looking for some custom blockchain solution instead of just using some public blockchain. And in general, those answers can be summarized in the following way. First of all, people would like to have zero transaction fees, especially on use cases when you have to have a lot of transactions. This is very applicable for gaming. In case if you're building a Web3 game and you would like to have such game mechanics which requires from you that like every step, every autonomous word change should be reflected on blockchain, it means massive amount of transaction which should be included in blockchain. And those people definitely looking for fast blockchains and to have zero transaction fees for such a transaction, because like there is no sense to pay fees just to change your autonomous word state. And this is the first factor. Second factor is to implement custom logic for your tokenomics. Yeah, because having custom blockchain, you can implement multiple native tokens, multiple non-native tokens. You can implement custom logic, how those tokens will interact with each other, what will be burned, what will be minted, and so on. Of course, something could be implemented by smart contracts on public blockchain, but having appchain, you can customize it even further to have much more freedom to implement different game mechanics. And I believe, last but not least, is that people were looking for network which will not be congested by some other parties, because like for instance, Ethereum mainnet has great example when CryptoPunks started be at hype, and at some point of time block spaces were filled by CryptoPunks transaction for more than half block space, and it was immediately affected all DeFi application, DeFi transactions, any other transactions, because people couldn't do anything unless like CryptoPunk hype was completely down. And that was the main factors why people were looking for appchain, and that's the reason why we see projects who are running blockchain mostly in gaming so far. Yeah, we also explore some other use cases, for instance, for supply chain management, or for logistic, or for energy grid management, or for retail or royalty services, but mostly we see this for gaming, because people would like to build autonomous world or metaverse or something like that, and they are looking for really custom logic and fast speed and zero transaction fees.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning how many teams essentially need zero transaction fees, because there's a lot of enterprises and institutions that can't hold crypto on their balance sheet. And so they have to essentially make it gas free, whether that's airdropping an arbitrary gas token to every new whitelisted wallet on like an app chain, or having a relayer contract or something like that. But yeah, that's a great point. I guess, Lomesh, going over to your questions, what are like the main challenges you see within this industry? I know you mentioned potentially not seeing a way forward for every chain to survive, and you said 90% of them will fail. What chains do you think will survive? What do they do well? That sort of thing.
Sure. I think some of it is like as I was hearing this discussion, right? So I think a couple of takeaways for me is that I believe, at least I agree, and maybe I don't know if everybody thinks, but the app chains are not needed for everyone. It's basically the idea is like for most people, if you think from an end consumer perspective, they're building an app or a service which like shouldn't care what is the blockchain, should completely be abstracted away from that. So what's the easiest way where the developers can focus on creating services or apps where they can add some like significant value to the consumer rather than getting bogged down and trying to hire cryptographers and like basically setting up their validators, trying to create up these tools. So I think if more and more people start to do that, they will soon realize that they are just doing work which they are not even like supposed to, they don't have expertise in doing, and so on and so forth. Yes, I mean, there are some big projects as like, as Doruk said, like dYdX has reached that scale where at this point of time, they want to have a little bit better control over their destiny, which is a fair game. But yeah, I think in my mind, I think most people, yeah, that's one big challenge. Most people will fail because they just try to ape what somebody is doing, and then they, without thinking about what is that, it's not required for them. Yeah, you should just be focused on how do I do something which can add a lot of value to my customers and consumers. I think the second thing, which is also interesting, as you guys were talking about, is like this concept of users or gas-free. So I'd like to at least mention from the get-go, the day we guys launched. So we have a reverse gas model. What that means is that the developers are the ones who essentially foot the bill for transaction fee, and as a consumer, you don't need to think about gas at all. So you don't even need a wallet to interact with smart contracts. That's taken care of by the developer. So we have like a little bit of a flip model. So I think that those are the kind of things that I think are the challenges which we have already started to think about. Yeah, I think we'll once we all come together, we'll probably solve those.
Nice. Yeah, I guess, Ognyan, turn it back to you. Focusing more on cross-chain protocols these days, what do you see as challenges for inherently cross-chain protocols, as well as maybe one of the solutions being the like interoperability layer? What interoperability layers would you recommend, or have you seen as generally are the best, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm going to relate with the challenges more over like the technical ones, and Vasiliy was right before, like with the statement that more and more problems will come that we will need to solve. And for me, there is like 4 or 5 major challenges that needs to be solved with the cross-chain communication at all. And the first is the atomicity of the cross-chain transactions, and that is when the cross-chain transaction either succeeded or fails. Why is that? Because the cross-chain transactions usually consist of multiple sub-transactions, and they occur, of course, of different blockchains, and they're independent of each other. And this is really important because the atomicity of a cross-chain transaction means that after a sub-transaction succeeded or fails, we need to revert or we need to continue with all the other sub-transactions. The second thing that I can point is the validation of the cross-chain transactions. And the validations mainly include like 2 aspects. On the one hand, is to confirm the successful execution of the cross-chain transaction and record the state after the successful execution. And on the other hand, both parties of that cross-chain transaction can verify that this transaction is valid and is valid for each other. The third thing from the technical perspective is the privacy of the cross-chain transactions. And the privacy here refers to the ability to protect sensitive information between the parties of the transactions. And, you know, such sensitive information may include the amount of that the transaction is bringing, the identity of the participants, and the data involved in the transaction. And we know solutions like the zero-knowledge proof that, or any other cryptographic algorithms that can solve such kind of problems, but in single chain. And we need just to mention that we need such kind of solution for the cross chain. And The fourth and the fifth are the management of assets. All the other participants here mentioned that the management of the assets that mainly refers to ensuring that the total assets on the chain of the cross-chain participants remained unchanged and avoid the problem with the double spending, for example, etc., etc. And then the availability of the cross-chain data, what I mean by the availability. When users need to query or use the data that is stored in the chain, they can query that data and maintain the complete copy of the entire blockchain database by running a light client or to make query to request to the full node. But those approaches require significant, let's say, compute power. And I need that there needs to be a challenge by solving this issue with the cross-chain communications, like how to guarantee the data availability between the different chains, which might be a problem. And what, on your question back, what solutions might be interesting for me for the cross-chain communication? I already mentioned the layer 0 and the CCIP. Especially the CCIP of the Chainlink. They launched the test version like 2 months ago, and right now there is a beta subscription for the mainnet version that all of us can go and subscribe for. So for me, the CCIP is something that is more like I've already mentioned, a data messaging protocol that can be widely adopted and used. I'm not advocating for that solution. I'm still using it just for personal tests and for personal projects. Did not test it on mainnet, as I already mentioned, still in beta, but I think for my technical background, that is something that it's really easy to be used by the users. Like, you don't care what is happening behind the scenes. You've got just the fragment or the standards that you need to follow, like what is the amount of the tokens, what is the data, and what is the function that you need to call on that router construct deployed on different kind of subnets. And yeah, that's it. So this is the answer of the second question. So layer 0 and CCIP are moving really forward for applying the cross-chain communication and bringing that technology to the Web3 community.
Got it. Any other of our panelists have any points they want to discuss regarding the topics that Ognyan were talking about?
I think there are obviously multiple approaches here. So as you mentioned, CCIP by Chainlink, layer 0, like, I mean, obviously what it involves is like the native chains to support those assets. So to give an example, I don't see how it would work with, let's say, Bitcoin as an example. So that means you wouldn't be able to incorporate or like interoperate trustlessly with Bitcoin. So there are different mechanisms on how these things have been solved. For example, today we are integrated natively with Bitcoin as a multi-chain kind of strategy, and then there are others that we're doing. But again, different kind of solutions are available, and everybody is it's super early. Everybody is trying to take a certain shot at the market.
Gotcha. I think it's worth transitioning over. I know over at ICP you guys have interoperability with Bitcoin. I guess, how does that work? What's the architecture for that look like? And what do you think that really enables, bringing interoperability with Bitcoin?
Right. So at the highest level, I think one of the first things I would like to maybe take 30 seconds to just quickly explain what ICP is so that people have context. So we are a layer 1 blockchain, but if you think about traditional layer 1 blockchains, they are essentially about having a ledger where, let's say, Matt and Lomesh exchange some tokens. That's the information, our addresses and the like the token amounts is the thing that goes on the blockchain. Even the NFT is like off chain and just the URL is on chain. What we are saying is, can you create a blockchain where you can like build complete software? So nothing, no reliance on AWS, like as dYdX was saying that this is one of their problems that they're trying to solve. So imagine you can have all the user data, all the assets, everything served from on-chain. So one of the interesting aspect about our smart contracts is that each of the smart contracts have 64 gigabyte of like stable memory available, which means it's like memory in RAM that you can use for your programs and so on. So what we did was we did a couple of things. So first we read the entire state of Bitcoin, like basically pull all the UTXOs from Bitcoin and just simply dump it in a single smart contract on the internet computer. And then obviously that state is replicated. And so we have 30 nodes that is constantly maintaining the real-time latest state of Bitcoin. So we can read Bitcoin blocks and just store it directly on chain. Then we implemented this, what we have is a chain key technology. What that means is like we implemented the signature scheme for Bitcoin, which is the ECDSA, the signing curve for Bitcoin. And we implemented that in a threshold manner. So this is like a cryptographic achievement, essentially, our people have been able to pull together. So from a end user perspective, think of it as every smart contract on internet computer can essentially act like a Bitcoin wallet. So it can have a Bitcoin address. So it will have a ECDS address. You can directly send Bitcoin, no bridge, nothing in between. You just have a Bitcoin address, send Bitcoin over. Now that Bitcoin is in the custody of smart contracts on the Bitcoin, and every smart contract can hold your Bitcoin, and it can also sign a Bitcoin transaction, which means if you want to move Bitcoin from Matt to Lomesh, you can sign the transaction there itself, and it would be relayed back to the Bitcoin network. So yeah, like there is nothing between ICP and Bitcoin integration. And what that enables is like effectively smart contracts can be written on the Bitcoin blockchain, leveraging ICP. So that's an example of what we have put together.
Gotcha. And then what are your future plans for ICP when it comes to omnichain, cross-chain interoperability? Are you guys developing something in-house, or are you using something externally and leveraging their technology and then kind of enabling better cross-chain messaging with other blockchains, or what are you guys working on?
Yeah, so I think so our first focus was Bitcoin. Now we are working on Ethereum, and then very soon all the different EVM chains. Basically, any chain that supports ECDSA should be our first target. So it would include everything from Solana and Litecoin, Dogecoin, whatnot. We can basically interoperate with anything in that sense because of this implementation that we have created with Threshold ECDSA. So what that means from an end consumer perspective is that you'll be able to basically mirror every Ethereum asset. ERC20 tokens, all of them could be just directly mirrored onto ICP. Similarly, you can bring ERC721 and 1155, all the NFTs could basically be mirrored here. And then you can have also the versions of tokens on internet computer can basically be simply beamed onto any other chain. We'll start with Ethereum, but then EVM and other chains. So that's how we are at least thinking about the problem. So goal is to how do you like interoperate like without a bridge in a trustless manner. So you just need to trust obviously ICP, the blockchain, and like the parent chain, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so on and so forth.
Got it. I guess, and I think we might wrap up 15 minutes early. This is my final question, and it came from Doruk, but this is kind of open-ended for anyone to answer. So how do cross-chain, app-chain, and omnichain technologies address the current scalability and interoperability challenges faced by individual blockchains? And what are the potential trade-offs for developing an inherently cross-chain, omnichain, or even your own app chain compared to something like a monolithic chain like Solana, or just developing on Ethereum mainnet or Avalanche chain, or just a singular permissionless blockchain?
Yeah, actually, like I can give one example for the biggest risk of crypto ecosystem. I think we can all agree that bridges are the biggest risk of crypto, because for the current stage of the bridge, there is not any permissionless bridge that we can directly say this bridge can controlled by immutable smart contracts, because in the end, we can say for the current bridge and with the infrastructures with working with smart contracts, those smart contracts are controlled by developers, and developers can change those bridges. So in the end, those smart contract bridges are not immutable. On the other hand, there are some like hardware bridges, we can say. I think Avalanche has SGX, but on that part for the SGX, I think there are some rumors that SGX has some exploit in the system, in its system. So with the hardware bridges, I think that we don't have a pure solution for that. We need to work on that part again. And correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but that bridge is controlled by Ava Labs. I guess no one can additional to like secure that bridge from the permissionless way. On the other hand, for the app chains trade-offs, we can say that the most important part is security, as I said before, because in the end, you have validators, and those validators are controlling, validating the chain, the security. And for that part, it's pretty hard to secure that chain, especially for Cosmos. Let's say give a specific example for Cosmos. If you lose 33% of the chain of the validators, your Cosmos chain will be stopped. And we saw this at the Luna collapse, because at Luna collapse they stopped the IBC, and because of some Luna validators stopped their validators during the collapse. So it's pretty hard to sustain that security for app chains. And for the cross chain, we can say the biggest risk is bridges. And I think in this future, in short term, I think we don't have a great solution for that. The second, I think third thing I can say is for the layer 2s and its sequencers. I can say sequencers are basically centralized for each layer 2s, and for those layers, it won't get decentralized in the future, like as short-term future. Probably in the future, they will focus on that part for from layer 2 teams, but the sequencer part is also a problem for the crypto ecosystem. And I think, again, to give an example, we saw a problem at Arbitrum. I guess, if I'm not wrong, Arbitrum team forgot to add ETH to
they forgot to top up. Yep. Top up the sequencer so it could submit batches. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes. That's kind of like weird. That's kind of some weird problems happens in the past, and probably we will live these kind of problems in the future too. So yeah, like I can say 3 biggest risks for crypto ecosystem: bridge, sequencers, and securing the chain for app chains.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so regarding to what you said about our bridge, basically you hit the nail on the head. I think at this point in time, any way you scale, it's basically still centralized, whether it's creating your own app chain, whether it's creating a subnet, a rollup has centralized sequencers, as well as there's only Arbitrum has like even semi-decentralized fraud proofs, but it's only like whitelisted people can come in and do fraud proofs versus like totally permissionless. our own bridge, like you mentioned, it's still permissioned in terms of like the wardens and indexers from ourselves. Like we control who are the wardens and indexers, and generally those are just like our close partners. But yeah, I think basically everything has trade-offs I've seen at this point in time. And it's funny you mentioned the Arbitrum team forgetting to top off the sequencer to submit batches to mainnet, because I think a lot of rollup teams are going to have similar issues, and it's actually quite expensive to operate a rollup at this point in time. And so now we're seeing L3s, and I think when you have a centralized L2 and then an even more centralized L3, you kind of lose a lot of the ethos of Ethereum, of that decentralization component. So definitely all valid concerns. Ognyan, I see your hands raised. You wanna, well, Vasiliy as well. So Ognyan, you wanna go first, and then Vasiliy second? Perfect.
Yeah, I will be really fast. Just want to say that I really support the Doruk opinion about the bridges, because the bridges, as we know, are like big honeypots, and 2/3 of the value that is stolen is in the whole crypto community is from blockchains. And here is the problem that Doruk mentioned about the immutability of the bridges are built with some kind of upgradability pattern, which is good because we can upgrade on a potential hack, but this is showing to all the crypto Twitter that actually you can control something. And actually, this is a really big topic about what and should be immutable, but I'm really staying behind the Doruk's opinion about the bridges.
Vasiliy, you want to go next? And then Lomesh as well.
Yeah, sure. I want to share some weird ideas that came to my mind. I truly believe that the current status of Web3 ecosystem, with all those multiple tens and hundreds of blockchains and different approaches to how to provide interoperability with cross chains, with omnichains and stuff, everything should go away in some foreseeable future. I predict that we will have more or less the same situation with we had with traditional databases. Yeah, in case we go back to like 90s or 2000s, we have seen a lot of different databases that compete to each other with different performance approaches, different approaches how to store data, how to format data, how to do sharding, and so on. And nowadays, like people using just like 3 to 5 database management system, and that's all. And like everybody are happy. Of course, there is some new databases. There is no SQL databases, new type of technology which solved some problems that we came, which we bring to our life. And right now, I see this Wild West status in Web3 with multiple blockchains and people competing to each other. And of course, there is some money motivation behind when people issuing new layer 1 and they would like to have cash out from the native tokens and stuff. And I don't believe like we will have less blockchains, networks, and protocols in next 1 to 2 years, but maybe on a time frame of 10 years or 15 years, there will be 3 to 5 blockchain networks which will be commonly used by anyone. And of course, there will be, and I believe we already know at least 2 of them, yeah, names of 2 of them, which will still be existing. Definitely will be Bitcoin and Ethereum. And the question of what will be the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, maybe it will be Avalanche or some other. And of course, those networks and those protocols will not be the same as it is right now. They will improve, they will change, they will implement all this sharding and the garbage collection and the scalability and interoperability and stuff, and they will be absolutely different from now, but there will be something that serve needs and purposes of everyone. And there will be no needs for multiple algorithms, protocols, standards, and stuff. Of course, there will be experimentation different experiments with different new type of consensus mechanism or blockchain protocols. But at the end, as we said today on this discussion, end user don't care. End user doesn't care like what they use, and eventually everything should be consolidated. That's what idea I have in my mind as a forecast.
Yeah, I think it's a good one for consolidating the world. I mean, I think I hope it happens sooner, because I don't know, like, I mean, as an industry, we also need to prove that things can happen on blockchain, people can like make businesses on blockchain and so on. And this is like, I think it's starting to happen, but I hope it doesn't take another 15 years, but I completely support your stance. So I think my comment was still about the bridges, right? So if we just like think from complete first principles, right? So what's fundamentally going on here is that why do we even need a bridge, right? So you have a chain A, which is a complete silo in itself, and chain B is a silo in itself. So you need some way, some mechanism in which people will have to like connect and talk to each other. So the way it happens today is that there is some third party, again, which steps in between and say, okay, I will help you pass your message from chain A to chain B, or I will help you pass these tokens from chain A to chain B. So this is obviously the reason why you're like laying too much trust on this interim party, which again, if you think about it, that was the original promise of Bitcoin back in the day, that like trust no one and create this trustless world. So I would like to at least hear some inputs from all you guys here in the panel and so on. So what we have tried to create, and again, by no means it's shilling, I'm trying to basically figure out some feedback on what we have built and open to your suggestions. So what we have tried to do in this model, that we have said, okay, if you're trying to create a bridge, then like ignore the central party in between. You don't need that. You can just basically have one blockchain directly pass in a message to another blockchain, which means as long as you trust these two chains, which is, let's say, Bitcoin or Ethereum and ICP and something else, as long as you basically trust these two chains, you can actually have direct communication because there is a specific cryptographic scheme that Bitcoin and Ethereum use. As long as you can implement that, you can talk to them directly. So you do not need a bridge. And so and again, I would love to actually like have you spend some time and maybe like reach me on Twitter. I'd love to get into a more detailed conversation and hear your views. Our goal is to like figure out how we can together move the industry forward. So let's not worry about too much of our bags and shilling and whatnot. Let's just figure out mutual solutions that can try to drive everyone forward. So that's the goal. But yeah, it was certainly a pleasure being here. Thank you all for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks for speaking as a panelist. I think that kind of wraps it up as far as questions that I wanted to go over as the moderator. But if anyone has any closing remarks or anything they wanted to add before we all kind of hop off for the day, feel free to add those in. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to you, Elena.
Yeah, okay, guys. Once again, thank you very much for joining. It's been a very insightful, very in-depth discussion. So we keep in touch, and we would love to organize something else in the same format with all of you, sharing your thoughts and your expertise. Thank you so much. Wishing you a nice day.
Thank you, everyone. Great meeting all of you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a
Thank you.
nice day.
Thank you, everyone.